Following Matt Chapman's signing with the San Francisco Giants, more reports are starting to reveal that the Giants could be great trade suitors with the Toronto Blue Jays to send Santiago Espinal to the Giants in exchange for a very interesting target. So I'll break that down in this episode of Jays Digest, as well as Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He is back. So stay tuned for that and much more in this episode. Coming up next. What's up, Jays fans? It's Gosse, your host of Jays Digest. We have a lot to discuss today. Obviously, the Jays are playing right now. Vladdy hit a huge home run. He looks to be back. But we have some very interesting trade rumors and reports to discuss today. Just a few weeks away from opening day. And obviously, Matt Chapman got signed by the San Francisco Giants on a contract that we thought the Jays could have easily matched. We made a video about that a few days ago, and we really thought the Jays should have matched that, especially as they're going for a potential win and going for, obviously, a World Series run this year. But before we get into this potential trade that has been proposed, a quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 12,000. Your support has been unbelievable as we produce daily Jays content. Now, let's get into the first topic of the day, which is trade reports are escalating. Now, we've obviously been discussing some trade reports. There has not been many trade reports over the past few weeks, mainly because obviously the team is starting to kind of gear up for the actual regular season, which is a few weeks away. But this article dropped by Jays Journal, and it's very interesting because it's something I thought as well. Obviously, Santiago Espinal has had a very poor start to the season, or spring training, had a very poor season last year, and with kind of the emergence of even guys like Aurelvis Martinez, Davis Schneider, Kevin Biggio, who's been hurt, but he's obviously going to figure to make a big role and play a big role in this team going forward. I don't know if there's room for Santiago Espinal, and I think he'll be better off on another team. So this article drops saying, after Chapman signing, the Giants have a trade chip that could interest the Blue Jays. Now, this is very interesting. It basically goes on to say that the irony of Matt Chapman signing in San Francisco is that the Giants may well now have a surplus player who can fit for the Toronto Blue Jays, and that player is no one else but J.D. Davis. So we can basically goes on to say that we can assume that Chapman will be the Giants' full-time starter at third base, absolutely, which means he will replace J.D. Davis, who played 116 games at that position last season. Is Davis really going to accept being demoted? And you can make a case for the Jays inquiring about the 30-year-old. J.D. Davis is a very interesting name. Obviously, right now, the team figures to have IKF play third base and kind of start every single, or most days, at third base, or Kevin Biggio, somewhere between those two. But regardless, J.D. Davis played a lot of games for the San Francisco Giants last year. He was kind of their everyday third baseman. And if the Jays now want to make a potential call to try to get J.D. Davis, he could fit very well in Toronto because he is a power hitter and he still has some upside. He is 30 years old, which is not too old. He has a career 261, 343, 432 slash line with a 775 OPS and a 113 OPS plus, and obviously has a team-friendly value on his contract. And as soon as the Matt Chapman signing broke a couple days ago, a few people in the Jays land, Jays universe, kind of tweeted the same thing that I was thinking, and this article is thinking clearly as well, saying the Giants signing Matt Chapman does make me wonder if a Santiago Espinal for J.D. Davis trade of some kind could now make sense for both parties. And then BK Brandon saying, I'll just pretend Espinal for Davis is a reasonable trade San Francisco would be happy to pull the trigger on. Now, I don't think a straight-up swap would necessarily be the value that the Giants want to get back for Espinal. Obviously, Espinal is a former All-Star, a bit of a weird All-Star year. He kind of tailed off a lot after he got nominated to be an All-Star, a bit of a fluky season. But Santiago Espinal does have a bit of upside, and if the Giants and J.D. Davis are not happy together, obviously not happy that relationship there, maybe he could be moved to the Toronto Blue Jays. And looking at his stats, last season he hit 18 home runs, 2022 he hit 12 home runs. Like, he's not a huge power guy, but he provides, especially he's coming off of a down season, so it might be a good chance to buy low on J.D. Davis. And the big thing here is, like, he has the upside to be a decent power hitting third baseman. And in his career, he's had some very, very good seasons. He's had some rougher seasons, but the peripherals are still kind of there. And I think at the end of the day, he provides a lot more offensive upside than Santiago Espinal does. And you could even make a case a lot more upside than IKF does simply from an offensive perspective. And he also had a very good defensive season last year, putting up 6 outs above average, a 90th percentile range, 74th percentile arm strength. Like, he's a very solid defenseman on a very solid, obviously, contract, which matters a lot less in baseball than some other sports like hockey and, the NBA. But the big thing here is that he is very it would fit a lot with the Toronto Blue Jays. And if they can find a way to maybe include Santiago Espinal plus a top 20 prospect or something like that, or 20 to 30 range prospect, one of the guys that is kind of still logjammed in the Blue Jays system they don't see a future for, then maybe they could get the deal done to get a guy like J.D. Davis, who Obviously, you still have IKF for all of his versatility, but you would have JD Davis out there available to play everyday third base for you, provides a lot more hitting upside than any of the other guys, still plays fantastic defense, and just makes all the sense in the world to me. He would be more of a stopgap guy while you wait for someone like a Relvis Martinez to step up, and this would be a cheaper option than Matt Chapman. Clearly, they didn't want to spend the money on Matt Chapman, even though they offered him 6 years, 120 before last season, about a year and a half ago, last November in 2022. But now, if you're looking at the actual where they stand right now, I mean, they signed IKF, and maybe Matt Chapman didn't want to come back to Toronto, but if you're JD Davis, you would be open to a trade. Maybe you wouldn't want to come to Toronto necessarily from San Francisco, California to Toronto. It is up to him whether he'd want to come here. But obviously, Toronto's a great city. Players love playing here. And if you're not going to get the playing time that you want in San Francisco, then coming to Toronto could make a lot of sense, especially because he's not super old. He is 30 years old, and I'm sure he wants to play for one final contract, whether that's a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year deal. And he's not going to be able to do that in San Francisco, where he is logjammed by Matt Chapman, who is signed for 3 years, albeit player options after the first 2. I don't know. It makes a lot of sense to me, especially given the fact about how bad Santiago Espinal has been this season or last season, and kind of just underperformed throughout the past 2 to 3 years. Obviously, his value is on the defensive end. He fell off defensively last season. We saw that that he's very rough out there. Even offensively in the spring, he hasn't shown much. And when you look at JD Davis, he has a lot of potential on the offensive side of things. He's still an adequate defender. Had a better defensive season than Santiago Espinal last year. And obviously, JD is a third baseman, whereas Espinal is more so a second baseman and a replacement backup shortstop for Bo Bichette. But I mean, I would be all in for this. So let me know in the comments what you would be willing to give up for a guy like JD Davis. Would you be willing to give up Espinal and a prospect? Maybe even a Yasser Zulueta plus Santiago Espinal type, because maybe it'll take a top 10, top 15 prospect. Who knows if you're pairing him alongside Espinal. And then if you're the Giants, you get rid of a guy you really don't have room for. You get a prospect and you get Espinal, who has the potential upside. He can play backup shortstop for you and has the potential to play at a fairly high level. So let me know what your thoughts are on that in the comments down below. And let's quickly move on now to Vlad is back. The game is still ongoing. They're playing well. They're up 4-1, I believe, at the time of recording. Bo Bichette's hitting well. Vladdy has a couple of hits. Justin Turner has a hit. He's playing fairly well this spring. What I'm saying is that Vladdy hit an absolute nuke. Now, I don't have the video for you. Go check the Jays Twitter if you want to see it. Absolute moonshot, 400 plus feet, and this is unbelievable to see. We're seeing a lot more home runs out of the boys as of late. Alejandro Kirk already has 2 home runs. Obviously, we saw his power fall off a ton last season, and it's great to see that his power is coming back. Vladdy's power fell off a ton last season compared to where he should be, putting up only, I believe, 26 home runs. I'm all in on Vladdy this season. He looks in shape. He looks thin. You can even see when he's, hitting how comfortable he looks, how much in better shape he looks. And overall, just he is going to be the key for the Toronto Blue Jays going forward, because if the Jays want any chance to win 90-plus games, make the wild card, even have a chance to make a run for the AL East, we need Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to go out there and absolutely mash, because he's going to need to be close to MVP caliber, and a lot of other players are going to have to step up, especially given all these injuries, which we'll probably cover tomorrow with all the starters. And it's going to be a lot to ask to replicate what the Blue Jays starters did in 2023 in 2024. But that'll wrap up the video. Let me know what your thoughts are on the trade. Let me know if you're excited for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And we're going to have you covered every single day for Toronto Blue Jays news as the season starts. So we'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Daily Jays videos. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you soon.